Today on the Locked On Blues podcast, the St. Louis Blues fell 6-2 to the Minnesota Wild. The series is evened up 1 game apiece heading back to St. Louis. Obviously, a lot of goals scored by the Wild. So plain and simple, we're going to be answering the question on today's podcast. Should we be nervous? And another question, should Ville Husso still be the starter after that game? All those questions answered and more. Make sure you stay tuned.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Locked On Blues podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and your number one source for daily Blues content. I'm Josh Hyman, and as always, I'm joined by Thomas Welch, who's rocking that fresh. Is that a Cards hoodie or not hoodie, but a Cards?
No,
hoodie
it's just a Nike sweater.
Just Nike. Yeah. It's still fresh, I can still appreciate
you.
And we got a fun episode for you today. We went into the game a little bit confident, and the Blues came away with a loss. 6-2 loss. I'll just say right off the bat, I think it was a lot closer than the score indicated, but we'll get into that. A lot of storylines. I mean, Ville Husso struggled. The defense is looking beaten and battered. We've got, 3 injuries?
Scandella, Leddy, Bortuzzo.
Yep. 3 starting defensemen potentially out with injuries right now. We're going to get into the defense in the second segment, probably a little bit in the first segment. But first segment, I just want to get into game reactions because I did hint at the fact that I think that it was a lot closer than the score showed. I mean, we're one Robert Bortuzzo functional hockey stick away from the Blues being back in that game. Or, one Tarasenko shot 3 inches to the left, the one that hit the post from being in the game. So 6-2, obviously on the surface, is a little worrisome. But, I mean, after that first period and after that flurry for the Minnesota Wild, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
Yeah, there you go. I really think the Blues controlled play, apart from a little bit at the end where they started pressing a little bit. So, I mean, Tommy, I'm going to turn the question over to you. Are you nervous?
I'm not really nervous yet. I think when you look at things big picture, I was talking about this with my coworkers all day today. It's like small picture, you're probably a little bit nervous, right? Like you said, you got Leddy, Bortuzzo, and Scandella all out with injuries now. You don't really know a timetable for their return. Hopefully, fingers crossed, somebody comes back Friday. Whether it's any of them, I think will be a huge improvement because it looked like Rosen was struggling a little bit, which, I mean, nerves and all those things, guy hasn't had a whole bunch of NHL games under his belt. So what are you going to do, right? You just kind of throw him into the fire and hope for the best. But getting one of those experienced guys back in the lineup would be huge for the Blues. So small picture, you're worried, right? You're looking at the defense and being like, that was the weakest link of this team coming into the playoffs. And now we're down 3 important pieces of that defense. So what are you looking at? But big picture, you've got home ice advantage now. You split 1-1 with the Wild in Minnesota, and you're coming back home with an even series. The Blues handle their business at home in front of their fans and do what we expect them to do and come out and ball out. They should go up 3-1 in the series heading into Minnesota once again. So then you can afford to lose a game, and then I don't know who knows what will happen then. But I think if you go up 3-1, the chances of the Blues coming away with this series is massive. Even 2-1, I think the chances of them going up 3-1 improved greatly instead of going down into a 1-2 hole. So there's a lot at play here and a lot of things going in consideration. But all things considered, like you said, I thought that the Blues actually played a better overall game than the Minnesota Wild in terms of offensive production, possession, all those things. It just so happened that it seemed like every time the Minnesota Wild got a chance to score, they converted on it.
Yep.
And, like sometimes the puck just doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes, I mean, they were 2 for 3 on the power play after going 0 for 6 in game 1. So, and that's probably due to the fact that the Blues had 5 defensemen or playing 5 defensemen were probably gassed. Justin Falk, I think, was in the box for one of those penalty kills. So you had Krug on the ice, who's not always on the penalty kill, isn't on there often, and also Rosen, who, like we said, doesn't have the experience. So there's a lot of factors that went into it. I'm not worried. The Blues had a dynamic offense. It felt good that I sat through that. We were down like 3-0 hole, which, by the way, like, you're going to lose 4-0. Yeah. But you're going to lose a lot of momentum, especially, like, I feel like the first goal in the series is huge going either way. So the fact that it happened on a broken stick, and I think it was their first shot of the game, and we had like 5 shots up to that point. We're controlling everything. Their first shot of the game goes in the back of the net. Like, that just swings the whole dynamics of the thing. So like I said, I'm not worried. I'll be worried if the Blues drop the next game, but as of right now, I'm a little bit concerned about the defense, but I'm not worried about the series overall.
Yeah. I mean, the defense is definitely something that, again, we'll get into more in the second segment. Next man up mentality, sure, but like, well, again, we'll get into it. But I mean, I think the biggest thing for me, and it was reflected in the way that the Blues played, is even when they were down 4-0, like, I was in the back of my head, I'm like, all right, get a couple by the end of this period, score. Like, there were still scenarios going on in my head of how they could win the game. I wasn't. I mean, every Blues team in the past, I feel like, goes down 4-0. You're like, all right, see you next game. And obviously, they still lost, but I don't know about you, Tommy. I was sitting there thinking like they could still pull this off, and they played like they still could have pulled it off, and they very well almost did. And I'll say this now, that Tarasenko shot off the post, that goes in. I think the Blues win. Honestly, they were pushing hard, and
that third period was unbelievable.
They were pushing hard, and once that power play happened, and they got it was the Tarasenko chance and then the Shen chance were like 30 seconds apart. Both of those go in 50% of the time at least. Fleury robbed Shen, and Tarasenko, shot it a little bit, like an inch too far to the right. Either one of those goes in. The Wild don't get those chances, but those don't go in. The Blues get a little frustrated. They press, and then they give up, another goal right after that. I really think that they could have won that game in that third period. They controlled play. They had a lot of scoring chances, and kind of like the Minnesota Wild in game 1, just got a little unlucky with posts and dominant goaltending from Fleury. So, I mean, look, this is probably the most optimistic I have ever been after a 6-2 loss. They took a game on the road. They say that about playoffs in basketball and hockey. The series doesn't start till you win on the road. The Blues won on the road. They just got to go in and, like you said, do their job on home ice. And I have full faith that they'll do that. Obviously, the one big question mark there is the health of the defense. So we're going to get into that in our second segment. But again, like I said, I think the Blues are going to be all right. I mean, Wayne Gretzky thinks that they're going to make it to the Stanley Cup final, and they're pretty big underdogs to do that. So maybe you could put some money on that. And if they do make it to the Stanley Cup final, you'll have yourselves a pretty deposit in your BetOnline accounts, because betonline.net is your number one source for all betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball, and this weekend's Run to the Roses as the Kentucky Derby is back. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts, and we'll be right back. All right, Tommy. So the Blues have been without Marco Scandella for a couple games now. They lost Nick Leddy in game 1 to a hit up high. Well, I don't know if it was a hit up high, but a hit against the boards, whatever, what have you. And then Robert Bortuzzo suffered one of the scarier injuries I've seen in my time as a Blues fan, taking a point-blank slap shot off the head. Really scary stuff there. Obviously hoping the best for him beyond hockey. That's something really, really scary. But in a hockey terms, that's 3 of the Blues starting 6 defensemen, which was already, as we acknowledged, the weakest portion of the team for the St. Louis Blues. And now they're forced to call up a guy in Steven Santini, who I don't think he hasn't played a game with us this year, right?
Maybe. I don't think so.
No. Yeah. Who hasn't seen NHL action in over a calendar year.
He did play in the playoffs last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It's looking a little dire right now. Obviously, having the 3 most important defensemen on the team. Well, actually, honestly, you could argue that Leddy's been one of the 3 most important defensemen. But still, having Parayko, Krug, and Falk, knock on wood, healthy is good. But at the same time, that just makes their job even harder because now Colton Parayko doesn't have a consistent D partner, something that makes him so much better when he's playing with someone he can rely on, specifically, a guy like Nick Leddy or whatever. So his job is going to be harder. Justin Falk's job is going to be harder. Torrey Krug's job is going to be harder. Cal Rosen's probably going to get more minutes, and we know how he struggled. If the Blues play the rest of this series without those three defensemen, Tommy, do you think they can win it?
I'll tell you what, Josh, I don't know if they can win it, but if they do win it, it's going to be because their forwards picked up the defensive play and the offensive play, really. I mean, obviously, the output in game one is exactly what you asked for from Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron. But other than that, guys have been kind of quiet, and like obviously Vladdy got the one-timer, Kyrou got a goal as well, but
need to see more from that Vladdy.
Yeah, and need to see more. I mean, I think there was like 2 shots on goal in the game one or something like that. Like I just need more offensive output, and give me what we saw on the end stretch of the season where you're just putting on a highlight reel every night.
That's a line we were consistently and confidently calling the best line in the NHL. And I mean, they haven't been the best line on the team, much less the best line in the NHL. So, I mean, we get even 75% of that end of the season stretch, and I think the Blues are looking pretty good.
Yeah, but I do think if those 3 defensemen are out, the difference maker for the Blues isn't going to come from a guy like Santini. Like, sorry, he's not going to come in and be like a world beater, So you got to pick up around him and be it's next guy up mentality, but like if the next guy up is Steven Santini, like it needs to be everybody up mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like Parayko's got to pick his game up. Like Falk has to pick his game up. Krug has to pick his game up. And the forwards have to get back. Like it doesn't matter how much time you spend in the offensive zone, how gassed you are, how long you've been out there on the ice, like what time your shift is. Like you gotta just throw it aside, get back, and like nurse your wounds later because that could be the difference in the game.
Yeah, I mean, like we were both saying, it having 3 starting defensemen out makes the jobs harder of every other player on the team. You can't rely on a guy like Nick Leddy to break the puck out as smoothly as he has been all year. You can't rely on a guy like Robert Bortuzzo to clear the crease out. Even Marco Scandella has had a really nice resurgence down the end of the stretch of the regular season. Obviously, that injury was looking pretty tough, but I mean, fingers crossed that he can make a return soon because I know he's been skating. Obviously, again, Scott Perunovich, another guy that's been a huge mystery. He's been skating very consistently, but there's been very, very little about his return. Like I feel like
said he might be closer than we might think, though.
Right. So like again, I feel like there's a chance we might like wake up tomorrow to news that Scott Perunovich is in the lineup, but we also might not see Scott Perunovich till like halfway through next season, just with how little we've heard about it. I really feel like it's so up in the air. But I mean, that could be a huge difference maker. He looks really good in his limited time with the St. Louis Blues, and obviously the fact that they've kept him up and the fact that they're trying to ramp him up shows that they're ready and willing to put him into the lineup when he's ready. But I mean, you gotta deal with that adversity in the meantime, and every team is going to deal with injuries throughout the playoffs, and maybe you can be a little grateful that it's happening now in round 1 and not at a little bit more of a adverse time. No disrespect to the Minnesota Wild, but I mean, if there's ever a time you can battle through injuries, it's through games 1 and 2 of the playoffs, maybe. But like you said, it's gonna put a big test on the rest of the defensemen and the rest of the forwards as well. And you'd hate to be sitting here at the end of the series being like, oh man, if only they were healthy, then we could have won that series. Because I still think the Blues can win the series, even if those 3 defensemen don't play. Obviously, it's going to be a lot harder, and I think it would go like 7 games and be an absolute gauntlet, and the Blues would be the underdog 100%. But I think they can still pull it off based on their offense because, like you said, this offense has been underwhelming so far in the playoffs. Obviously, they had that big game 1, but they scored a lot on the power play, 2.5 goals, as we've said. And then, game 2, we still haven't seen a whole lot from that offense outside of Ryan O'Reilly and David Perron. So, I mean, I think they'll step it up. We've seen the offense go cold in the stretches in the past, and there's no reason to think that, they're not going to rebound. Maybe Berube shakes up the lines a little bit. I hate to say it because I don't want to see that Tarasenko, Thomas, Buchnevich line broken up, but who knows? We know he's one that he isn't shy of putting lines in a blender. So, we'll see. There is one more big elephant in the room that we need to get to, and that is the fact that Ville Husso had one of his worst games in a long time with the St. Louis Blues, allowing 5 goals, right? One was an empty netter.
Yep.
Yeah, so we allowed 5 goals. Rebound control wasn't great. Positioning wasn't great. Didn't look good. Begs the question, is he the long-term starter for this playoff run? For the record, I think yes, but there's a conversation to be had there, and we're going to have it. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about one of our newer sponsors, and that is Athletic Greens and their product AG1. I talk about this a lot whenever we advertise something about like meal plans or anything that you can really eat. I'm a college student. I eat like crap. It's natural. You know, I got classes during lunch all the time, classes during dinner all the time. It's hard for me to like sit down and actually spend an hour cooking. But one thing that's really helped me and just helped me feel better throughout the day is AG1. You put 1 scoop of it in a glass of water, and it gives you tons of high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source supplements, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the important things. I literally just put a scoop of it in my water bottle on the way to class, and it keeps me hydrated throughout the day, and it keeps me feeling good. It's lifestyle friendly, so whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, or if you're not on any sort of eating program at all, you can enjoy AG1. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar and no GMOs. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and put up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And we'll be right back to wrap up today's episode. All right, Tommy. So obviously, you know, everyone's favorite term, goalie controversy, is being thrown around now. And I just want to start this off in defense of Ville Husso. I don't think you're going to disagree with me. I think we're on the same page here. But for anyone listening, maybe that is a little bit concerned with Ville Husso, here's my defense as his attorney. First of all, couple power play goals in there. You can never really blame the goalie too much on power play goals. And then you have that Tarasenko turnover, which inexcusable. Ville Husso couldn't do anything there. Yeah, he got dangled a little bit, but I mean, he's not expecting to face a breakaway when the Blues have 4 guys in their zone and the Wild have 1. So that's 3 goals there that I don't really feel that bad about. At the end of the game, there's a 2-on-1. The other goal, I honestly don't even remember that much, but I don't think that there were any goals in that game where I'm like, man, if Husso just made the right play there, the Blues would have been in this game. I didn't find myself pointing fingers at Ville Husso at all last night. Obviously, the save percentage was a little rough. The goals allowed was a little rough, but I think he played fine. I think he gave the Blues a chance to win, which is all you can really ask out of a goaltender when they're not, stealing a game for you. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too optimistic. What are your thoughts?
All right, so I've got his game log pulled up real fast, and I'm optimistic like you, but this scares me a little bit. So his last 5 games dating back to the regular season, he had a 3-2 loss in overtime to Boston. He had a .914 save percentage. His next game was against the Anaheim Ducks. The Blues won 6-3. He had an .824 save percentage, 14 saves on 17 shots. So small sample size, but .824 save percentage. Next game against Vegas, we lost 7-4 and he had a .864 save percentage. Then obviously last game against Minnesota, 1,000, dude shut him out. But then game 2 against Minnesota, .815 save percentage. So, obviously with the sample size that he has this year, the consistency that he's had this year, he's been one of the top goalies in the league for a long time. I expect him to bounce back, but just small sample size and recency bias, that's a little bit concerning to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think of that. He did struggle a little bit down the stretch at the end of the regular season, and it was kind of, I guess the focus was taking off because Binnington was playing pretty well. But again, I don't think, like, when Jordan Binnington was struggling this year, it was pretty evident. Like, he didn't look comfortable in his crease. He was kind of flopping around a little bit. I don't think Ville Husso has looked uncomfortable yet. And I think once a goalie starts looking uncomfortable and like in their own head a little bit is when you start. I think if I were a coach, that's when I would start considering the yank. I don't know. I mean, I saw a tweet today that the Blues, when Brian Elliott had that historic season in 2016 and the Blues were in the Western Conference Finals, he got yanked from a series. So, I mean, it's happened in the past, but I think it's too early to say. If we come out I think if Ville Husso loses you a game, then you're real concerned. Like if he has one of those 14 saves on 17 shots and the Blues lose like 3-2 in a game that they really could have won, then I'm concerned. But as of right now, I mean, I don't think Ville Husso got the support from his team that he could have gotten. Not to mention they were playing with 5 defensemen. He was facing a lot of odd man rushes and just didn't have the odds in his favor last night. Obviously, would I have liked them to get the win? Would I have liked him to, steal a game, sort of like Marc-Andre Fleury did? By the way, I think you could argue that Marc-Andre Fleury stole that game a little bit, even though he gave up, 2 goals.
He played really well.
Yeah. So it was I'm not concerned. No, Jordan Binnington shouldn't start the next game. But I mean, it's the same thing I said, talking to Seth in the previews. I wouldn't be surprised if the Blues, make a long playoff run or whatever to see both goalies start at some point. And that's not a knock on either one of them. That's not me losing faith in Ville Husso or anything like that. But just with the way that both of them have been kind of up and down, it leaves that open for possibilities. But no, right now I still trust Ville Husso. I think he has the potential to win you a series. And specifically this series. It's going to be tough, obviously, without the defenseman, but he's shown that consistency. Obviously, as of late, it's been a little rough, but I think he's going to be all right.
Here's something that's also promising. Just pulling up more stats about Ville Husso. So I pulled up his record this season at home, Josh, and it's 15,
insane. It's
3-2, and that includes 2 wins against Minnesota and no losses against Minnesota at home. So that's promising because like the Blues have home ice now. So if they, like we said, if they take both of these 2 games and go up 3-1, that bodes well. That bodes extremely well for them in winning this series. He also has a .926 save percentage at home. So a little bit better than those 800s that we were talking about beforehand. And that's a much larger sample size than just the last 5 games. So,
right. Yeah.
No, we'll see.
Yeah. And like the thing is, obviously Ville Husso hasn't been elite or wasn't elite in that game. He was elite in game 1. The Blues don't need elite goaltending yet in the playoffs like they did in 2019. They have the offense to sort themselves out. I mean, I would say in terms of like priority list, in terms of like concern, number 1 right now is the defense getting healthy. Number 2 is, the offense outside of a select few getting going. And then down there at number 3 is goaltending. But if 1 and 2 fix themselves, I don't think goaltending will be a concern at all.
I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we play tomorrow, right?
Yep. Friday Night Lights.
Tell me it's earlier than 9:30 Eastern.
I think
Please.
It's 9:30 on the nose, Josh. Let me double check.
At least it's a Friday night. That's all right. What you got for me? Come on. Tell me some good news. I'll check
tomorrow.
too.
May 6th?
May 6th.
8:30.
May the 6th be with you.
8:30 p.m.
Well,
on the nose.
That's fine. I don't need to sleep anyways. So yeah, we'll have a preview for it. At least that means we can get a preview up beforehand. But that being said, I think that is all the time we have for you today. Tommy, you got anything else pressing? Any pressing thoughts?
Go Blues. I think that honestly, I will also say this. I went on Seth's show and said that it's going to be an electric series no matter what. And I just keep having to remind myself, even though the Blues got slaughtered last game, that if you pick the Blues in 6, they have to lose 2 games, right? So unless you pick the Blues in 4, you're still bang on for like predictions, right?
I like that. That's true.
So we're in a good spot. Split games in Minnesota. Let's go out, sweep it at home, take care of business, move on to the next round, and let's have some fun in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I will just say that I'm considering my official bandwagon papers to the St. Louis Cardinals because the Boston Red Sox are atrocious. So let's go Cards, baby.
I like it. I'll also say if Minnesota beats the Blues, like I'm probably going to be rooting for them to win the whole thing. Like Spurgeon
Fair.
aside and all those things,
Fair.
like Minnesota is such a cool hockey state. Like they
Fair.
absolutely deserve championship. Kirill Kaprizov is electric. I don't want
Jacko
the
Kakko.
Avs to win. Yeah. So yeah, I will be all aboard the Minnesota Wild.
All right, two
bandwagon if the Blues get
big
knocked out.
bandwagon announcements today. I'm gonna have to get myself a Cards hat, Tommy. I don't know.
I like that. I like to get the Navy one. It's clean.
Is there they came out with a Navy one? I like that. I don't
Yeah, it's
I don't
beautiful.
have any Navy hats. I might have to check that out. All right, that being said, that is all the time we have for you guys today. So thanks everyone out there so much for listening to the Locked On Blues podcast. Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Locked On Blues, getting close to that 250 subscriber mark. So awesome there. We love engaging with you guys in the comments and stuff as well. So drop a comment. Love the comment last episode that said I looked fly in my Blues jersey. I appreciate that. Yeah, but that being said,
And you were nervous about it.
I was nervous. Well, okay, we don't have to get into that. maybe a little fake. That being said, though, thanks everyone so much for listening. Make sure, like I said, comment on our YouTube channel. We love that stuff. Follow us on all of our socials: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Hyman NHL. Follow Tommy at TWelcher15. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, let's go Blues.